power in Lord of the Mysteries has never been free, and this week's episode is a reminder that even the most lighthearted missions can end with the heaviest losses. Welcome back to our ongoing week-by-week review of Lord of the Mysteries, where we break down each new episode strictly from an anime-only perspective. No novel spoilers, no outside material, just the story as the show gives it to us, 1 week at a time. We've been following this adaptation since the premiere, and the last 3 episodes have been some of its strongest yet. The pacing is tightened, the character work is sharper, and the plot threads are finally weaving together in a way that makes this world feel more alive and dangerous than ever. This week's story starts with humor, camaraderie, and a little bit of absurdity before pulling the rug right from under us. It's a perfect example of how Lord of the Mysteries can have you laughing 1 minute and holding your breath the next, all while slipping in more lore about the strange and dangerous life of a Beyonder. Make sure to stick around until the end of this video. After we break down the episode, I'll be sharing some updated anime-only theories on what really causes a Beyonder to lose control. Then we'll talk about my first impressions of the Old Neil's Mysticism Classes side series and go over the official long-term timeline for the Lord of the Mysteries anime. Episode 8 opens on one of the most peaceful scenes we've had in weeks. Klein and Azek fishing together. There's something in the way that Azek looks at Klein here that says more than words ever could. It's this almost relieved expression, like he's genuinely happy that someone else finally knows his real story, that he's not completely alone anymore. Klein doesn't waste a moment, he asks Azek for his help. There, we're dropped straight back into another tarot club meeting, and maybe it's just me, but again, did anyone else feel like Olger was testing justice this time? Setting the price for his knowledge at £1,000 feels less like a fair exchange and more like bait, a way to see how far she'd go. I don't think he expected her to actually agree. It's a subtle way of gathering information on his fellow members, and Olger's too sharp to not notice the signs of her noble background. As usual, he's dropping more lore in the process, and I'm starting to wonder if at some point Olger himself was a part of one of these hidden organizations. We get a quick break from the meeting with Benson and Melissa, and honestly, how have they still not figured out Klein is a Beyonder? For a guy juggling spirits, artifacts, and the occasional monster attack, he's doing an incredible job keeping that under wraps. The next scene brings us to a pub where Harve, Old Neil, and Klein are sharing drinks. Harve wastes no time trying to poach Klein, impressed by his skills as a seer. This is also where we're formally introduced to the Mandated Punishers, another faction in the Tengen territory. We're told that members of different churches can't investigate followers of other deities. Now it's a bit vague here, but I can make the assumption that Azek knew this, which is why he had his spirits target Evernight goddess worshippers. That loophole allows the Nighthawks, as members of the Evernight Church, to step in and investigate without overstepping any jurisdiction. Back at the office, Dunn assigns Leonard and Old Neil to this mission of clearing up the rampant spirits, which leads to one of the episode's funniest moments, Old Neil faking a bad back and acting too frail for field work, only to suddenly change his tune the second he hears his pay will be doubled. That's all the motivation he needs. Meanwhile, Klein tries to angle for more time with the artifacts by volunteering his services. Leonard notices his interest, but in true Satoru Leonard fashion, he assumes Klein just wants to be around him to figure out his secrets. Klein, of course, couldn't care less about that. Once they reach the docks, the real fun begins. The crowd absolutely roasts the Nighthawks. Showing zero respect for their presence, Leonard plays into it with a con artist's flair, producing holy water, a cross, and some garlic to prove they've got things under control. It's a perfect reminder that most people don't even know Beyonders exist, which is exactly why the Nighthawks operate like a secret police. Things take a darker turn when Azek's spirits start possessing people, showcasing just how dangerous and powerful he really is. The artifact activates, purging the spirits, but the Nighthawks still go through the motions of what can only be described as a rain dance, convincing the crowd that they handled everything themselves. We run into Harve again here, and there's something about him that doesn't quite match the story's description of him. He looks far younger than his actual age. Then Old Neil starts reminiscing, talking about fond memories, and it hits me immediately. Harve's not making it out of this episode. Neil then shares that he lost his wife, adding a layer of tragedy to his usual comedic persona. The artifact, Klein's main goal for this mission, while also being able to handle Azek's spirits, it also provides the method for creating powerful sun charms, a piece of knowledge Klein clearly values, but before we can focus on that, everything falls apart. Directly after completing the charms, another Beyonder loses control, turning into a grotesque monster. Old Neil pieces it together slowly, and the realization is gut-wrenching. The creature is Harve. Neil is the one who ultimately has to end it. Klein notices later that Neil keeps mementos of his departed loved ones. It's a subtle, heartbreaking detail that speaks to the curse of outliving everyone you care about, a curse that every Beyonder knows could one day be their own. Hey there, looks like you've been caught in Dio Stan the World. While time's frozen, don't forget to leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss any future content. Alright, time's up, back to the video. The events with Harve in this episode reveal some of the most unsettling truths we've encountered in Lord of the Mysteries so far. The idea that a Beyonder can lose control is nothing new, but this case forces us to look at why it happens, how it happens, and whether it can be prevented, or worse, intentionally triggered. One theory worth considering goes back to episode 7 during a Tarot Club meeting. Augur mentioned that worshippers of the fallen creator tend to go berserk more often than not. At the time, it sounded like a throwaway detail meant for world building, but in hindsight, it feels like foreshadowing. We know members of the Sailor Pathway are usually worshippers of the Lord of Storms. We aren't explicitly told that Harve was a follower of the fallen creator, but the question lingers. Was this just an unrelated loss of control, or is there a hidden tie-in here? If Augur's statement is true, the implication is that divine influence can erode stability in Beyonders, especially if that influence comes from something as corruptive as the fallen creator. Building from that, another theory comes from Klein himself, the idea that fully digesting a sequence potion might be the key to long-term stability. This means mastering not just the abilities of a sequence, but the mental and emotional state that comes with it before advancing to the next level. Taking Klein's theory further, Harve's situation offers another angle. He was a Sequence 8 Folk of Rage in the Sailor Pathway, and both he and Old Neil have been Beyonders for a very long time. To still be at Sequence 8 after all those years suggests he hadn't truly embodied whatever qualities were needed to progress in the Sailor Pathway. That raises an alarming question. What if staying in a sequence for too long without proper potion digestion leaves you vulnerable? If that's true, then there might be ways to exploit someone who's been stagnant for an unusually long time. Whether through outside influence, mental erosion, or deliberate manipulation, a Beyonder stuck in place could be far easier to push toward instability than someone actively progressing. Harve's fate might not have been just bad luck, it could have been the end result of years of unresolved strain building up inside of him. Then there's the wild card, Megose's baby. We still don't know what it is or what it can do, but the show keeps reminding us it's out there. There's no direct on-screen link between the baby and Harve's berserk state, but that doesn't mean the connection isn't there. His final task was to watch over Megose. The series could be intentionally hiding its influence, waiting for the right moment to reveal just how far it reaches. If the baby has any kind of passive or long-distance effect on Beyonders, then Harve's breakdown might have not been entirely his own doing. This is where the implication turns dark. If some Beyonders are destined to lose control no matter what, whether from divine corruption, stagnation, poor digestion, or an outside influence, then the risk isn't just theoretical. Every mission carries the possibility of facing an ally turned into a monster. For Klein, that danger is personal. A single misstep, advancing too quickly, neglecting to digest, or simply staying in the wrong sequence for too long could send him down the same path, and unlike Harve, Klein is carrying responsibilities that extend far beyond the Nighthawks. That's the real terror of the Beyonder path, that every step forward might be one step closer to collapse. Harve's transformation didn't come with a warning. I don't know about you, but it completely caught me off guard. I knew he probably wouldn't make it out of this episode based on how Old Neil fondly spoke about him, but going berserk wasn't even on my radar. It didn't give anyone a chance to prepare. One moment he was part of the team, and the next he was gone, replaced by something unrecognizable. If Lord of the Mysteries keeps showing us cases like this, then the message is clear. Madness isn't just a possible end for a Beyonder, it's a constant shadow following them, waiting for the right moment to strike. I have to admit, this is the first time I'll be checking out the Old Neil Mysticism Classes, and I can't believe how much they've enriched the main story. Episode by episode, the Mysticism Classes walks us through things to know about the world of Lord of the Mysteries, starting off with the Four Nations. We have the Kingdom of Loen, where the story is currently taking place, the Intis Republic, the Phasic Empire, home to apparently the Church of the God of Combat, which sounds absolutely insane. I can only imagine what's going on up there. And lastly, the Fena Potter Kingdom. Each comes with unique Beyonder pathways: Bard, Hunter, Warrior, Arbiter, Planter, and even the Criminal and Monster pathways. I'm sure only the most upstanding people choose the Criminal pathway, right? As for the Monster pathway, I can only imagine what this could be. Could it be like a shapeshifter-like progression, something that mutates the user over time? Or is it closer to what we've seen from Geto and Jujutsu Kaisen, brewing dangerous summons in the shadows? Then there's Spirit Vision and what the colors truly mean, plus Assassin pathway abilities, and we even get some explanation on charms and what they do. That bit of lore really deepened the reasoning we see Klein trying to get the Sun Artifact charms in episode 8. Now about the timeline, and this is where things get a little wild. The anime's production team has laid out a full release schedule that stretches over a decade. Season 2 in 2027, specials, multiple seasons running through to Season 6 in 2034, and a final film in 2035. How many anime can you think of where the studio says, hey, here's the full plan all the way to the ending? It's basically none. Somewhere out there, a One Punch Man fan just collapsed in tears, wondering where their season 3 even is. It's a rare move that tells me the studio is committed to telling the story right, faithfully, at the pace it needs without rushing arcs or cutting essential lore. That means as anime-only viewers, we're in a position most fandoms never get to experience, seeing an entire sprawling epic play out on screen. From the first fishing scene with Klein and Azek, all the way to whatever the final world-shaking moments will be. This week's episode is a reminder that Lord of the Mysteries isn't just a mystery fantasy, it's a story about the cost of power. We can laugh at Leonard's antics, marvel at Azek's abilities, and enjoy the absurdity of the Nighthawks faking a rain dance, but underneath it all, the grim reality is that any Beyonder could lose themselves at any time. Harve's end wasn't just another monster of the week moment, it was personal. It was proof that the line between stability and madness is thinner than anyone wants to admit, and that even someone with years of experience, friendships, and a life outside of the job can be lost in an instant. Theories we've talked about today, from divine corruption to long-term stagnation to the still mysterious influence of Megosei's baby, all point toward a future where Klein will have to make hard choices. He's gained allies, learned the rules, and started mastering his role as a seer, but the truth is, the dangers aren't just coming from the outside forces. The real threat may already be inside every Beyonder. Looking ahead, the fact that the studio has a decade-long plan to adapt this story faithfully means moments like this won't be cheap shots. They're part of a bigger design, one that's going to make the payoff worth it when the pieces start falling into place. So whether it's unraveling more about the fallen creator, uncovering what's really going on with Megosei's baby, or figuring out just how far Klein can walk the line between power and madness without falling, there's no doubt about one thing. The most dangerous parts of this story are still to come, and I'll be here week after week breaking it all down from the anime-only side. If this episode proved anything, it's that you'll never know which laugh will be your last before the shadows close in. Catch you in the next one.